Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So the last update about Unfortunate Love was how Rishi finally looked for Lakshmi and saves her from the goons that were about to kill her. Then Rishi decided to look for a guy for Lakshmi to marry her, and then he calls the matchmaker. So let's continue from there. Lakshmi asks Rishi to stop acting like her father. Rishi tells Lakshmi that people will be happy if we agree to their sayings, and he asks if Lakshmi wants to live such a life. He says what matters is that we think about each other. He says people's thinking doesn't matter to us. We know our relationship and what we feel for each other and how much we matters to each other, so only our opinions matter. Rishi says to Lakshmi that let people think whatever they want and the truth will come out in front of everyone and they will settle down. Lakshmi says wrong and says the people whom you are talking about is our, and then says your family. She asks Rishi to think about her and she asks that why are you forcing your decisions on me? Rishi says you don't think about yourself, so I have to think about you, and Lakshmi looks on. Rishi says to Lakshmi that you were marrying Balvinda and then you ran away from home. He says you came into my life and you became my wife and we both have a relationship. He says forget about the divorce. I am really attached to you and I cannot bear it if you do anything wrong with your life, and says if you had not come into my life, then we will be happy in our own lives. Rishi says to Lakshmi that you are someone who is closer to me, so I don't want to argue with you. He says you might have used your mind when you ran away from home, and now use your mind to understand me, and he asks her to come. Ayush drops Shalu at her house. He says Lakshmi asks him not to call her sister-in-law. They see Balvinda there. Ayush asks that what to do, and Shalu signals at him that Balvinda is coming near them. Balvinda tells Shalu that a guy has come to drop her. Shalu asks Balvinda to run and she calls him drunkard. Balvinda says you were roaming around with a guy all night and he just returned home, and says you are enjoying. He says elder sister is staying with her ex-husband and the younger one is enjoying with a guy. Ayush gets angry and he beat Balvinda. Shalu asks Ayush to leave Balvinda. Ayush says I will not leave him. Bani calls Shalu on phone, but Shalu rejected her call. Rano comes there and collides with Balvinda. Balvinda asks Rano if she took money for giving liberty to her nieces. He says, I asked from where Shalu is coming with her boyfriend, but the boy beat me and he taunt Rano. Rano recalls Bani telling her that Shalu went out to buy something. Balvinda calls Rano greedy and then calls her aunt. He says, your niece is respecting you so much. It seems that you have trained her well. He asks that where are you, Shalu, and he goes. Rishi takes Lakshmi to the room adjacent to his room and says you can stay here, and says it is the same room as our room, and says I will ask Mukesh to keep your stuff here. Lakshmi asks Rishi to stop his care and says this too much. Rishi says it is just a start and he asks her to see what he does for her. He says don't let your self-respect come between us, and says we both are one. Think that you are doing this for yourself, and he asks her not to feel guilty. Rishi says to Lakshmi that this is necessary and says do you have any idea what could have happened with you if we haven't come at the right time? He says if anything had happened to you, then he stops. Lakshmi says if that incident did not happen, then I would have reached my village and everything would have been fine. Rishi asks Lakshmi that did you finally reach your village? No. And why did you see the murder happening? And why did the goons run after you? He says even your faith doesn't want you to go away from here, and says I don't trust you and I'm doing this so that you don't run away from here again. Lakshmi says to Rishi that this thing doesn't happen and husband and wife doesn't stay under the same roof after divorce. Rishi says today this thing have happened and now people will give our examples, and they will give examples that ex-husband searched for alliance for his ex-wife, and says people will give examples of our love, of our relationship, and he asks her not to worry. Lakshmi says to Rishi that I am tired of your sayings. Rishi says I am not asking you to stay here for all your life, and says I will search for a good guy for you who will love you. You should be the best man than me, and he says that he just wants her to be happy and nothing else. He says till then you will stay here, and he asks her to write this everywhere so that she will not ask him again, and he goes. Lakshmi says to herself that you are very good, Rishi, but why do you want to trouble your family because of me? And why do you want to get me married? Rano asks Shalu if she was with Ayush all night. Ayush says they had gone out because Lakshmi had gone away from home, so they went searching for her. Balvinda asks if Lakshmi left, and Ayush says we finally found her. Balvinda asks Rano if Neha also ran away. Rano scolded him. Ayush asked Balvinda to leave. Balvinda refused to go. Rano owed Shalu's hand angrily and asked Ayush to vanish. Balvinda says, I know the meaning of vanish. Ayush gets angry and hits Balvinda. Balvinda falls on the road and Ayush drives his car and he goes. Rano brings Shalu home and asks Bani to take the heavy stuff from her. She scolds Bani for lying and says, you have hid the truth from me. She says people taunt me because of Lakshmi, and she asks that why did Lakshmi go with Rishi when she knows that she will later run away. Shalu says to Rano that Lakshmi went with Rishi because of you. She says you had said that the expenses have increased and that the marriage of the other sisters will not happen if my sister stays here. So that was why Lakshmi left. Rano says I will not bear people's taunt and she is about to go out. Shalu asks if Rano is going to meet her sister. She asks her not to go, but Rano asks Shalu to come with her because she will scold Ayush and Rishi both. Karishma tells Neelam that Lakshmi is not leaving Rishi and says how can Lakshmi do this, and says she has never seen such a clever, bad and cunning girl in her life before. Rano comes there with Shalu and she tells Karishma that she wants to meet Rishi. She says if Rishi couldn't handle Lakshmi, then she was good at her house. Karishma says so what, and she asks Rano to leave. Rano says to Karishma that people taunt me for Lakshmi's values. Karishma says people taunt you rightly, and she asks if they should tie Lakshmi in the room. Sonia says it is a good idea. We should keep Lakshmi tied up in the room. Shalu asks Sonia to mind her language and says my sister had gone away from here so that brother-in-law's relationship will not spoil, especially with Neelam auntie. Sonia asks Shalu if their relationship is not spoiling as Lakshmi returned. Karishma asks Rano and Shalu to leave. Rano asks Karishma to handle her son and she threatens to pull her eyes. Kiran comes to Malishka's room and says it seems that she did not sleep at night. She says Rishi has promised that he will get Lakshmi married to someone else and that he will not marry her, and she asks Malishka to relax. Rano shouted at Karishma and asked that what is Rishi doing when he had taken Lakshmi's responsibility. Karishma says Rishi was worried for Lakshmi because there was no food for Lakshmi in your beggar's home. Rano asks if her nieces will be hungry at her house if Rishi did not give her food. She says beggars are those who keep their lockers filled and don't give anything to others. Sonia tries to insult Rano, but Rano asks her to stay in her limit, else she will get her disrespected. She says call Rishi. Neelam shouted enough and says I am silent and that doesn't mean that you will go on speaking. She says if you throw stone on a dirt, then the dirty water will fall on you. Rano asks Neelam not to say such things and Neelam threatens to tell everyone something that Rano did and it will prove heavy for her, and Rano is shocked. Kiran asks Malishka not to worry. Malishka says she knows Rishi and Lakshmi. She says Lakshmi will trap Rishi again. Kiran says Neelam will not let Rishi break the promise. Malishka says that Lakshmi is staying there and she is very clever and she can do anything. Karishma asks Rano to leave their house, but Rano says that she will not go without meeting Rishi. Rano says people are taunting me and pointing finger on them, and she asks them to ask Rishi to take care of Lakshmi, else she will take care of her niece without any problem. She says it seems that you people forced Lakshmi to leave the house. Sonia asks Rano if she will take Lakshmi away now and says it will be a pleasure, but Rano asks her to talk to Rishi who brought Lakshmi here in the first place. Rano says if anything happens to Lakshmi, then you all will see my real face and you will know what I can do. Neelam asks what will you do? We want to know. Rano says I will show you and she asks them to call Rishi. Sonia asks how dare you to talk to my mother like this? Shalu asks that how dare you to talk to my aunt like this, and they all begin shouting. Rishi comes there and asks them to calm down. Karishma says look at her. Rishi says I'm talking and he tells Rano that whatever happened is not anyone's mistake. He says he has taken Lakshmi's responsibility and he will get Lakshmi married soon. And Karishma says get Lakshmi married soon so that we can get rid of her. Rishi tells Rano that he will take care of Lakshmi well and he will not let her go and says I will get her married to a nice guy. Rano says I don't know what is in you that I cannot get angry with you and says I am trusting you again, so please don't break my trust. Rishi says I will not break your trust. He says today itself I am calling the matchmaker today, and he assures Rano that he will fulfill his promise and he will get Lakshmi married. Lakshmi recalls Rishi's words that he will search for a guy for her, who deserves her, and who is best than him. Shalu comes there and asks Lakshmi. Lakshmi asks if their aunt scolded her. Shalu says no, and then says, you know our aunt. Lakshmi says it means you got much scolded. Shalu says Bani is also giving befitting replies to aunt, and Lakshmi says Bani is learning this from you. Shalu tells Lakshmi that brother-in-law will call the matchmaker today. She asks if Lakshmi is thinking because she doesn't want to go away from brother-in-law. Lakshmi says she doesn't want to marry. Shalu says your heart is with each other, you love each other, then why don't you both agree that you love each other? Lakshmi asks Shalu if emotions changes with time and says right now, it seems like we never even had love between us. Whatever it was, nothing is left now. Not marriage, not connection, no feelings or emotions. Rishi hears them and comes inside. He says to Lakshmi that finally, you can go and he will get rid of me soon. Rishi says to Lakshmi that Leela, the matchmaker, is coming, and then you will finally get rid of me, and I will do your farewell myself. Then you can go away from me forever. He gets sad, and Lakshmi also gets sad. Rishi is in his room and he thinks of Lakshmi's words that they don't have any relationship, no emotion, no connection, or no feeling left between them, and he thinks that why did he get hurt with Lakshmi's words? Rishi says to himself that whenever he thinks that Lakshmi will go away from him, then he feels strange pain and he asks if this is love. Ayush comes there and hears him. Rishi says, I love Malishka, but I get hurt by Lakshmi's sayings when there is nothing between us. Ayush says you and Lakshmi have something between you, and this is love. Ayush says to Rishi that you never loved Malishka, trust me. He says it is Lakshmi's sister-in-law. You loved her, and you loved her intensely with eye level. He says Lakshmi forget herself when the matter is about you, and this means that she also loves you too. Lakshmi tells Shalu that Rishi and I don't love each other. Whatever relationship we had was something else. Shalu asks that what is it then, and Lakshmi says she doesn't know. Shalu says to Lakshmi that you and brother-in-law must not have care for each other if there was no love. Lakshmi says maybe it was friendship and says there is no love. Shalu says that it is love, and she asks that how will I make you understand? Ayush tells Rishi that it is love and says how do I make you understand? Virendra comes there and asks Rishi and Ayush that what argument is happening. Ayush says I was trying to make Rishi understand, and he asks Virendra that do you think that Rishi loves Lakshmi? Virendra says of course, Rishi loves Lakshmi, but Rishi doesn't realize it. Ayush says I was saying this. Rishi says if I was in love with Lakshmi, then wouldn't I have known about it? Virendra says to Rishi that if what is between you and Lakshmi is not love, then what is it? Rishi says I don't know what it is, but if name should be given to this relationship, then think that. Lakshmi says to Shalu that think that we are friends, and Rishi also says to Ayush and Virendra that think of us as friends, and says he wants to help Lakshmi and he feels responsible for her. Lakshmi says to Shalu that even our right to fight, care and love is still friendship for us. Rishi says to Ayush and Virendra that the right to love, fight and care is still our friendship. He says there is love in friendship too, and he asks Ayush and Virendra not to name their relationship as love because they are just friends. Virendra tells Ayush that they cannot make Rishi realize this forcefully and says that one day Rishi will realize how much he loves Lakshmi and he would eventually know that he loves Lakshmi immensely. Ayush says I wish it was not too late when he realized it. Virendra says to Rishi that you are searching for a guy for Lakshmi, and he asks him to ask the matchmaker to search for a good guy for Lakshmi. Virendra asks Rishi that do you care for Lakshmi? Rishi says I care for Lakshmi more than myself. Virendra says love starts with care, and Ayush laughs. Shalu says the same thing to Lakshmi. Lakshmi tells Shalu that Rishi cares for her and he thinks good about her, and that is why Rishi is getting her married. Shalu asks if Lakshmi will marry someone else. Lakshmi says yes, and says so that Rishi can move on in his life. Shalu says this is love, and says love starts with care. Balvinda comes home. Kamli owed him. Balvinda eats Kamli and he tries to suffocate her to death. Kamli takes out the phone from the cupboard and she plays Lakshmi's video in which she threatens to send Balvinda to jail if he harms Kamli. And Balvinda leaves Kamli and he thinks to burn Rishi and Lakshmi's life. Ayush tells Rishi that he is confused. Rishi says he is not confused. He says he is tired of making everyone understand. Ayush says when you care for Lakshmi, then whom do you love? Rishi says everyone knows whom I love and says I love Malishka. He is confused and he says I think I love Malishka. Ayush says you think and he asks him to feel it and not think. Ayush says to Rishi that my mom, Neelam auntie and Sonia want you to marry Malishka, but my uncle, grandma, Ahana, I, and Devika, and in fact Mukesh want your bond to be with Lakshmi. He says I don't think that things that Malishka accuse you of happened between Malishka and you, and says my mind says that you did not get intimate with Malishka. Ayush says to Rishi that that night incident is why you agreed to marry Malishka, and this is the reason that everyone agreed for Malishka and your marriage. But honestly speaking, everyone believes that you love Lakshmi and you should pair with her. Rishi says whatever you feel about Lakshmi and me, I genuinely respect it, and he asks him to think what he feels too. Ayush asks Rishi that what do you want to say? Rishi says I don't deserve Lakshmi and I am not suitable for her. He says that is why I want to get her married to a nice guy who deserves her. Ayush says but Rishi gets a call from Leela and asks her to come home. He tells Ayush that Leela is the best matchmaker and she will search for a good guy for Lakshmi, and Ayush goes away from there upset. Rishi thinks that what will happen if people ask me if I love Lakshmi or not, but I know that Lakshmi doesn't love me. Lakshmi tells Shalu that it doesn't matter if I love Rishi or not, but Rishi doesn't love me. She says she is tired of her destiny and her peace is snatched and she doesn't want to think about anything. Lakshmi says to Shalu that if that incident hadn't happened yesterday and the goons did not kidnap me, then I would have gone very far from here. Shalu says I will not ask you anything, but you should not go away from here because everything will be fine at the end. Shalu hugs Lakshmi and Lakshmi gets teary eyes and hugs her. It is only in Indian series you will see two people who live together for a whole year and who cannot do without talking or seeing each other every single day, and who can go to the extent of putting each other's life at stake, and yet they still believe they don't love each other. Only in Indian series. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all again in my next video. This video is long enough. Bye guys.